What happens to a person when they're completely cut off from the world? I'm not talking about a weekend digital detox. I mean true, profound isolation. Today, we are diving into some of the most extreme cases of isolation ever recorded, exploring the chilling effects it has on the human mind and body. This isn't just about being alone. It's about what happens when your reality shrinks to just four walls, or even less. Let's start with one of the most famous, and frankly, heartbreaking stories, the case of Jeannie Whieley. Discovered in 1970 in a suburb of Los Angeles, 13-year-old Jeannie had spent her entire life in almost total isolation. Her father, believing she was intellectually disabled, had kept her strapped to a potty chair in a darkened room or confined in a crib with a wire mesh lid. She was never spoken to. When she made a noise, her father would growl and bare his teeth at her like a dog. When authorities finally rescued her, Jeannie was a ghost of a child. She couldn't speak, couldn't straighten her limbs, and had a strange bunny walk. She was a blank slate, a person who had missed all the critical developmental windows. Scientists were fascinated. Could she learn? Could a human being, deprived of everything that makes us human, be brought back? Initially, Jeannie made incredible progress. She learned hundreds of words, she learned to express some emotions, and she formed attachments to her caregivers. It seemed like a miracle, but the miracle was fragile. The critical period for language acquisition had passed. She could string words together, but never master grammar or syntax. Her speech was always broken, like a telegram. Applesauce by store. Father hit arm big wood. Sadly, Jeannie's story doesn't have a happy ending. After years of being passed through different foster homes and research settings, some of which were abusive, she regressed. The funding for her research dried up, and she disappeared back into the system. Today, she lives in an adult care facility in California, once again silent, a tragic testament to the irreversible damage of extreme isolation in childhood. Our brains are wired for connection, and without it, the wires just don't form correctly. Now, let's move from a case of imposed isolation to one that was, in a way, self-chosen, but just as extreme. Imagine being the last person of your kind on Earth. This was the reality for the man known as the Man of the Hole. He was the sole surviving member of an uncontacted indigenous tribe in the Brazilian Amazon. His people were likely wiped out by ranchers and loggers in a series of attacks starting in the 1970s. For at least 26 years, he lived completely alone in a small patch of rainforest. He earned his name because of the deep, narrow holes he would dig, sometimes at the bottom of the huts he built for himself. The purpose of these holes is still a mystery. Were they for trapping animals? Hiding? Or did they have some spiritual significance? We'll never know. Officials from Brazil's indigenous agency, FUNAI, monitored him from a distance for decades, leaving him supplies like seeds and tools, but respecting his clear desire to remain uncontacted. They filmed him once, from afar, a fleeting glimpse of a strong, healthy man in his 50s, chopping down a tree. He survived by hunting, gathering, and tending small gardens. He was a phantom in the jungle, a living monument to resilience. Think about the profound loneliness. No one to speak your language with. No one to share memories with. The entire culture, history, and knowledge of his people rested solely within him. In August 2022, he was found dead in his hammock, having passed away from natural causes. He had prepared for his end, covering his body with bright macaw feathers. It was a dignified, solitary end to a solitary life. His story is a powerful reminder of the human cost of a world that is constantly expanding, pushing the most vulnerable into ever-shrinking corners of existence. But what happens when the isolation isn't in a jungle or a dark room, but in a place designed for it? I'm talking about solitary confinement. One of the most extreme examples is the story of the Angola 3, a group of inmates at the Louisiana State Penitentiary, also known as Angola Prison. Albert Woodfox, Robert King, and Herman Wallace were placed in solitary confinement in 1972 after being accused of killing a prison guard. They maintained their innocence, claiming they were targeted for their political activism as members of the Black Panther Party. Robert King was released in 2001 after 29 years in solitary. Herman Wallace was released in 2013, just days before he died of cancer after 41 years. And Albert Woodfox? He spent nearly 44 years in a 6x9 foot cell. That's a space smaller than a parking spot. For 23 hours a day, he was alone. For 1 hour, he was allowed to pace, alone, in a small outdoor cage. How do you survive that? Woodfox described it as a constant battle to keep his sanity. He read voraciously. He studied law. He exercised relentlessly in his tiny cell. He and his comrades would communicate by tapping on pipes or shouting across the tiers, trying to maintain some semblance of human connection. But the psychological toll was immense. He experienced panic attacks, claustrophobia, and a perpetual state of anxiety. The world outside his cell became abstract, unreal. When Woodfox was finally released in 2016, the world was overwhelming. The simple act of being in an open space was terrifying. The noise of traffic, the vastness of the sky, it was all too much. He said, "I'm not sure what I'm supposed to feel. The more I'm around people, the more I realize the damage from the years of isolation." His mind, trained for decades to exist in a tiny box, struggled to expand back into the world. His story is a powerful indictment of a system that uses isolation as a form of punishment, a punishment that often continues long after the cell door has been opened. These stories are extreme, but they reveal a fundamental truth about us. We are social creatures, hardwired for connection. Our sense of self, our ability to think, to speak, to feel, it's all shaped by our interactions with others. When that's taken away, the human spirit can be bent, and sometimes broken. Jeannie's story shows us that without early social interaction, our brains may never fully develop. The Man of the Hole demonstrates incredible resilience, but also the deep tragedy of cultural extinction and ultimate loneliness. And Albert Woodfox's ordeal highlights how isolation can be used as a weapon, inflicting psychological wounds that may never heal. So, what can we take away from these haunting tales? It's a reminder to cherish the connections we have. That conversation with a friend, the hug from a family member, even the simple nod to a stranger on the street, these aren't just pleasantries. They are the very things that keep our minds healthy and our spirits intact. They are what make us human. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of extreme isolation. If you found this topic as fascinating and thought-provoking as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the incredible, and sometimes terrifying, aspects of the human experience. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.